Hello and welcome. It's me, Percita, and this is Percita's Paradox. Thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate you, your time, effort, and energy on this thing called YouTube. If you're new to this channel, thank you as always for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. And if you are a returning original OG, as always, thank you for your continued support. So we got a pretty good response in regards to our last couple of videos that, I was a little kind of touch and go about it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to, let's just say put my thoughts out on the table. But I think I'm going to go and dig a little deeper. I think I'm just going to kind of take that risk in spite of the idea of no one likes to be criticized and just kind of touch on some things that have just been not necessarily bothering me, but things that I want to put on the forefront to actually open up a new dialogue about. So today I want to talk about how exactly we change, right? And you may say, okay, girl, what are you saying? The question is, can you change and be the same? And you may say, well, of course you can't if you're changing, because how would you change and remain the same? Well, that's kind of the question that I'm really digging at, because there's so many times in our relationships that when we're trying to grow, even from the idea of a career path, and our friends and family are really acclimated to us being, who we are, especially if you're like me. And what I mean by that is that I'm a really super duper consistent person. I am absolutely dedicated and consistent. I have always been. I kind of can say that I was that way even when the characteristics weren't necessarily great characteristics, or we would identify them more in society as toxic traits or characteristics. Needless to say, either way, right? If I'm doing good or if I'm doing bad, I'm consistently doing it. I am absolutely a person that you could almost clock me if you know me based on what I do, because I consistently do it. And I've been this way for a very long time. But what I'm noticing is that the people around me don't necessarily have to do as much work when it comes to a relation with me, because I'm going to remain the same. And in remaining the same, it does not allow me to be fed, because people that are typically that consistent really have a hard time with then not being consistent. And what I mean by that is that because I'm a problem-solving type person, I typically don't want people around me to experience anything negative, especially if I can control it, right? Especially if I know the answer, especially if I have the connect, whatever it is. I am, for the most part, the busybody that's in everybody's situation. I've learned over the years that has not been the most effective way to utilize my love for others. So therefore, over the last couple of years, I can tell you specifically that I've tried to pull back that type of energy. Well, in my current years, what I'm noticing is that the people around me really have never had to work to love me. It was always a position of they just did the bare minimum because I was going to fill the void. So here I am now, right, trying to actually change. And I'm coming against oppositional forces of energy because of the fact that I have always been who I am, not causing anyone to grow because I'm filling the void for them. So when I think of this idea of change, and especially changing our behavior and our environment, our goals, whatever you want to call it, our relationship status, our relationship outlooks, and goals as a whole, I'm just starting to understand it's really complicated for the consistent person to change, right? Now, you may say, well, that's a different angle. I think everybody has a hard time with change. Yeah, because whatever you're not changing, you've been consistent in. It's kind of what I'm trying to say. So I realize that change has this opposing factor in our lives because we have grown complacent in the idea that things around us need to shift. The irony is that we typically pray for things that we want without actually wanting things to change. We want them to be better without any effort. We want them to be in a position where they can actually just shift and take us to another level, and we're going to give the exact same energy that we've been getting. We're just going to get a different outcome. I say that because it took me a very long time to really figure this idea out. Even in the idea of utilizing the excuse that I'm consistent, right? And I'm literally saying it as an excuse because anytime you're utilizing something like that as a defining moment as to why you're not doing something else, then it becomes an excuse. It's sad, but it's fact. So I'm excusing myself because I'm saying, well, I'm consistent, and being consistent, it just makes it very hard for me to let go or to not show up the way I know I need to show up for the people around me to be happy. What I'm actually saying is that I don't really love myself enough to understand that if I'm loving me better and I'm changing my behavior so that I am consistent for myself, it would then be a betterment for the people around me that I love, for them to be their better selves, because I wouldn't be enabling them to do things that they can do based on the premise that I think they can't do it. So I call it consistency in helping or filling the void or whatever you want to call it. You kind of understand what I'm saying? So when I think about how exactly do you change your behavior and still understand that the change is not going to yield the exact same behavioral characteristics you used to have, or the relationships that you used to have. I mean, prime example, I was saying to my mom the other day, I was like, if I don't actually call all the time at this point, it's not because I don't love you or I'm not caring about you. It simply means that I'm actually doing things differently. And I'm expecting everyone, especially you, to understand that. The funny part is that a lot of times that we'll do something like that, we won't really even have that conversation. Now, I'm not saying that conversation is going to be any better and she's not going to forget that, I'm not avoiding her or however you want to look at it, because usually the consistent person who, you can damn near bank on every move they're making, when they do shift, you tend to feel that you did something because they're shifting. I'm trying to tell people around me, instead of you owning something that you don't really know to be true, just ask me. Because a lot of the times that I'm shifting now, I don't even really know that I'm shifting, because I'm really trying to do it as organically as possible, meaning I'm not trying to force anything. I'm not trying to force any promotion or any attention at work or at home or in friendships. So it's just this thing that you want something different, so you're trying to experience different things. We typically put that in the idea of travel or soft life things, like we were talking about financial. When you have more exposure to money, you typically then experience different things, typically, if that's where your mindset is. And that's kind of what I'm saying. You can't really change and remain the same. It feels as if you can. It feels as if, like I said, you're asking for a blessing and you don't really have to shift, because you're really seeing it from the perspective of where you are. So even in that, you're literally trying to tell God, like, just fix it right now, right here, because see, I see this solution. And if you give me this particular solution, then I know that I'll be good right now. It's kind of the idea of why you hear so many people say that you can't tell God how to bless you, because you have no idea what you're really needing the long run. You just know what you can see right at this particular moment. It's the same thing when you're thinking about the idea of changing. You're not asking for change for the future. You're asking for change in the motion of what the change is, because unlike God, you can't foresee what's really happening. You can only see what you're doing right now. But usually when we're changing, we just have a lack of communication to deal with it. And even with the communication, you could literally have a whole conversation with somebody telling them your goals as a short-term scenario, and they still not get it. So it's not necessarily the idea of you're doing something wrong. It could very well be the idea that you're just in a space, right, of moving, and you're moving so fast that you can't really keep up with everything around you. So you want to make sure that you're communicating. So that's why I say, can you change and remain the same? No, you really can't. Can you change in communication with someone and try to be as open as you possibly can? Yes. But the downside to that is still this idea that some people don't really wish you change. And that's the part that we don't want to deal with. That's the part where we find ourselves just in a very strange place of, how does that work? I believe that it only works when you understand that you're going to upset people. I believe that it only works when you understand that it's not going to feel good. I believe that change only works when you know that you're going to have the growing pains. You're going to have the regrets of ideas that you thought were the right thoughts and plans that you thought were right. And you're going to regret the fact that you didn't allow yourself the idea to change them sooner. I believe that it comes from this thing of knowing you have to forgive yourself and forgive yourself quickly. Because if not, as you're trying to change your behavior or trying to do anything, and now understanding that you actually have to be different within your change, you can then accept all of the idea and all of the attitude and all of the weird energy that you're going to get from individuals who didn't get the memo on why the change is important. I believe you really have to define why the change is important. I believe it's crucial in order for you to move forward in regards to changing and understanding you cannot change and remain the same. That saying flows in my spirit so heavily every day. Whenever I'm feeling weird or down or wondering why someone won't shift with me, even after the communication, even after the dialogue, after all of that, I have to stop and just say to myself, there's no way to change and remain the same. There's just no way to do it. And it's so complicated because typically the people that you're around and the relationship that you're trying to nurture and take with you, you want to take them with you. You want them to be a part of the journey that you're in so that you can experience things with them. But I promise you, just because it's your goal and you see it that way for someone, if they don't see it, if they're not on the same wavelength, if they don't really want to receive it, you can't cause them to see it any other way. And it's very complicated when you want someone to see it and see it as quickly as you see it, and you want them to believe in you for you to be okay with that. So I say all of that because, again, I'm going to say it for the umpteenth time in this video, change does not allow you to remain the same. And because it does not allow you to remain the same, even your prayers have to be specific to the idea of you're willing to be flexible and ambidextrous and all of those other things that allow you to know that it's out of your control for you to reach your goals. It is so complicated to actually try to pray these days because we typically want to pray for what we specifically think we need in the moment. If you really want to go and get, a job and that's what you're doing, then you're praying and desiring for that job. I'm not telling you don't pray that way. I'm just saying to understand that even after you get it, it may not be the job that you thought it was, or it may not be the opportunity that you thought it was. And then we tend to not only bash ourselves for it, but now we're beating ourselves up for not knowing that we shouldn't have prayed for it. When I'm starting to understand that if I'm going to say a prayer, then I'm learning that my prayer is more to be open to whatever the angle is. Meaning, this is what I think I want, but if this is not really what you want me to have, then please don't give it to me because I don't want the repercussions of not knowing what I need to do because I jumped in front of you, meaning me talking to God. That's how my prayers go. And I would say the same when it comes to your behavior across the board, with your friendships and your marriage, anything of the sort. All you can do is voice what your goal of change is and hope for the best that the person is willing to attribute to what you're saying by changing with you and giving you the grace to be able to change and not holding you to the consistency that you've always been, or some people call it routine or patterns. Because what we do is we stay comfortable in what we are patterned to do. And because we do that, it's why we then want things to just kind of come in and fill the void of what we think that we need based on what we're currently doing. But in order to actually change, you literally have to let go of all of the patterns, all of the consistency that you've had, and be willing, ready, and able to create a brand new pattern, a brand new step, a brand new lifestyle, mentality, mindset that can sometimes cause you to really falter because you're looking for the same support from the people that have been around you and they don't know why you're changing, meaning they don't see a need for change. They don't see a need for you to do anything more than to remain whatever you've been for them and whatever you've been for yourself, even though everyone wants, I lied, most want you to be as successful as possible. Some people in your life you have to also own are not ready for you to be as successful as you want them to be. They're complacently comfortable with where you've been because that also gauges where they should be. And a lot of times, again, people don't want to do the work. So it's very interesting when you start to really comprehend the idea of change really is that. It's just change. It's not some way to have change or shift or give yourself a pat on the back for thinking about changing, right? Stay in that pre-contemplation idea of change and making your way to contemplation, but still not making your way to the actual action and then the maintenance thereof, it can become a little crazy in your spirit. And then you beat yourself up. Most people who have this conversation with themselves, it typically happens over a period of time. And what's always sad is if you don't yield to what I'm trying to tell you or what you've tried to tell yourself, years go by and you look up and you wonder what exactly happened and why you didn't grow and why you didn't succeed. Because remember, it's always this fear. Remember, we only respond to two things, either fear or anger. All of your emotions are always going to be based on fear or anger. That is the root of them. So if you can grasp that, then you'll feel yourself and you'll actually play with your own emotions to say, where is this coming from? Am I fearing something or am I angry about something? And either way, you want to take that and put it at bay because you understand that those outcomes are not only temporary, but it's just not something that you want to base your move off of. Well, primarily because it's temporary. So I just wanted to come today and just really give you that little bit of a tidbit. Also really see how you felt about who you are in your ideas of change and just kind of pose the question to put you in a mindset of really asking what's holding you up from change and why exactly are you not believing yourself about your change. Because so many times we've had conversations within ourselves about the change, but I'm telling you, like, we just don't want to do it. But it typically comes from us within us. It's not even always an outside source. It could just be the idea that you're just not willing to do it because of, right? I can fill the void for you. I can complete the sentence for you, but I want you to complete it and tell yourself what it is that you need to do in order to reach your goal. And if you're at your goal and you feel absolutely content, then you also want to make sure that you're praying and really meditating on the idea of maintenance. Because again, so many people are worried about how to sustain where they are. They don't tell you that, but that's always a fear on how do you sustain what you have, right? Even in a position where you feel like you might have a lot. And there's also that disconnect of change in a lot of our society, family, and friends, and so on. Our environment will literally base that on typically your financial status that's changed or your exposure that's changed. And I always want to say to people in that regard, you'd have to understand that there's no way at all to remain the same if you're in a different environment because you're going to be exposed to different things. And in that exposure, it causes you to adapt to your environment. So many different ways we can go with it. I could go on and on, but I'm going to stop right there and simply say, meditate on what it is that you really are trying to change and ask yourself, are you trying to change without change behavior? Are you trying to remain the same in your change? And really, really dig deep and figure out what is holding you up. So, as always, I thank you so much for joining me. If you've been with me this far, I greatly appreciate the fact that you've watched me to the end. Now be so kind as to like, share, comment. Please make sure you hit the notification button. Absolutely subscribe if you have not subscribed. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely give the exposure to me on all my other platforms. I'm on TikTok and I'm also on Instagram under the exact same handle, which is Living Percita. Thank you, as always, for your continued support. So before you can do any of those things, I need you to do three things. They are live life authentic. As always, have a wonderful day. Hope you're going to enjoy this beautiful June. Happy June. My daughter's getting ready to graduate from UC Davis. I'm extremely proud of her. Off to law school in the fall. And we are just thriving over here. So I wanted to say that and give her a quick shout out because I'm super excited. So, of course, if you have any questions, definitely hit me in the Google Doc, in the chat. Absolutely make a comment, send me an email, smoke screen, or whatever it is. I hope you are killing it. I am killing it. Your girl actually went hiking, and I'm starting to enjoy this whole hiking thing. I don't really like outside, so I have to do it early in the morning. But I've gotten with some girlfriends and some guy friends, and we are like really making it kind of cool and fun. So, let me know how you feel about that. I'm also going to do some videos next couple of weeks to come, actually right after the graduation. So probably mid-June, where we're going to actually show you how to actually move. Because, I'm a personal trainer by trade, but I definitely want to make sure that we do some fun things for the summer. So we'll have some people come on, maybe not necessarily do a live. I'm going to probably have to pre-record it, but I definitely want to give you some specific moves and things to do that will kind of keep you moving, especially if you're going to travel, especially if you're still struggling with just your form, right? So I wanted to say all that before I forgot. But as always, do what you need to do to have a great day. I will see you later in the week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.